Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Call. I'm Dennis Green, and my guest today is Katie Roche. Hi, Katie.
Hello, how are you?
I am well. Usually you're here talking about upcoming gigs with your band, the Dandelion Stompers, but
Yeah.
not this time. Although we might be able to get into that maybe at the end. I'm sure there's stuff coming up, but you're here in your identity as development director for the Iowa City Public Library Friends Foundation.
Yes, indeed. I started my position there on October 31st last fall after almost a nearly 12-year run as the development director for the Englert Theatre. So I like to joke that I just moved down the block. I mean, I went out the back door of the Englert into the back door of the library. So
you didn't even have to change your parking space.
No. In fact, my walk from home is a whole 2 minutes shorter. So, really capitalized off that half a block there.
So, and I know that I know you've got a big event coming up, and then there's also the Johnson County Great Give that y'all are a part of. And then I know you've got, of course, the normal range of library programming. Since you've got all that spread out in front of you, why don't you hit some of the highlights of library programming for us, and then as we go, we'll dive into the different the big events coming up.
Yeah, well, that first week in May is a really big week for the Iowa City Public Library, as well as Johnson County as a whole. So on May 3rd, that's Johnson County Great Give Day, and the nonprofits of Johnson County are inviting the public to come out and make a gift of any size to support those local nonprofits that really do such incredible work in our community. Whether your issue is addressing the unhoused, food equity, addressing, making sure our libraries are strong, just find an organization to support on that day. And then just because we like to pile lots of good things on top of each other in that first week of May. On May 4th, we have our big annual fundraising event, Looking Forward, for the Iowa City Public Library, put on by the Iowa City Public Library Friends Foundation. And that event will be featuring Raman Alam in conversation with Dr. Tameka Cage Conley. And this is an event where Raman Alam wrote this incredible book that I just loved called Leave the World Behind. I really love apocalyptic genre. I really love dystopian literature. And apparently a number of great actors also loved this book and decided to star in the Netflix film that will come out in December. And Julia Roberts is the star of that film. And it's a book about something I think that kind of feels familiar to a lot of us right now, this kind of feeling of like, what's happening? We all, I think in 2020, there was a lot of uncertainty, and this book kind of, takes that and blows it up in literary form. And so he'll be in conversation with Dr. Tameka Cage Conley, who is a poet and author who really delves into her family's history and the way that racism and class and the history of slavery in the United States affected her family. And I think that it's really it's going to be a really wonderful conversation at the Englert Theatre, May 4th, 7 p.m. And those two, I expect that it'll be a moving conversation and a conversation with a lot of relevance. Dr. Conley, I tend to get teared up when she talks because she really gets to the heart and soul of everything in a really beautiful way. So if you see me there wispy-eyed, just know I forewarned you. It should be beautiful. I think it should also be hopeful, which I think is a funny way to think about dystopian literature and apocalyptic genre, because it really usually is about us trying to figure out ways to figure out how to dig our ways out of difficult situations. What tools do we have? How can community rebuild and come together to find our way out of difficult situations? That's what always attracts me to that genre.
And Mr. Alam, did he move from, was it Bangladesh? Is that where he grew up?
Yes, he moved from Bangladesh in the 70s with his parents and now lives with his husband in Washington, D.C., I think with 2 kids. And, immigrants' stories so often inform writers' works. And I do see in his stories the perspective of someone who really understands what it is to build a life.
and that against the backdrop of post-apocalyptic living when everybody is trying to rebuild and recreate and move on from their past.
Yeah, Octavia Butler is one of my favorite writers, which is one of the book club picks, of course. The Iowa City Public Library just has an incredibly robust amount of programming. If you're ever like, there's nothing to do. Well, guess what? There always is at the Iowa City Public Library. There's programs absolutely every day for all ages, from little babies, for book babies, all the way up to clubs for adults and programs for adults. So, our April programs at the library, we have, coming up, we've got a BYO book, the book Weather by Jenny Offal on April 25th. And there's even just books where we talk about different kinds of books. So you might get into a genre of suspense or detective fiction. You might be looking at biology. We even have houseplant swaps, which is very dangerous for me because the two things I have too much of in my home are plants and books. So I'll be both going to that and trying to avoid it at the same time. Yeah.
And so the Great Give Day is the 3rd of May. Now, does that involve? Is there a set number of organizations who are participating in that, or is it literally just a pick an organization to support and do something for them?
Well, you certainly can just be self-motivated as a donor and just pick a Johnson County nonprofit to give to. There's also organizations that are making larger efforts to invite support at that time. And so, you might see a social media post or get a letter in the mail or a postcard letting you know that that's the day to give. Giving Tuesday is kind of a complement to this in the spring, but this was really meant to concentrate the efforts within Johnson County nonprofits, and we've seen quite an adoption of it. There's a lot of organizations that have decided to jump on. So if you're involved with a Johnson County nonprofit, you can always reach out to me at the library. Happy to help you figure out how to get engaged with that day.
And your own event is on May 4th, and that will be at the Englert, correct?
Englert Theatre, 7 p.m. with Raman Alam and Tameka Cage Conley. And we actually have, pay what you tickets, so you can pay $10 or more to join us that evening. And then, of course, if you're interested in a VIP event and getting a chance to meet Raman and Dr. Cage Conley, there's also VIP tickets available with a private reception afterwards.
So there will be. So the main event is the conversation, but then there is an opportunity there for a reception and some other things going on as well for patrons.
Yes, indeed. And this is an annual event, and I'm new to working for the Iowa City Public Library Friends Foundation. So what's exciting for me about all of these opportunities is getting to meet all the wonderful supporters of the library. You don't really find folks that aren't excited about public libraries. Almost everyone has a story or history with a library that made a difference in their life, and this is a really pivotal and important time for libraries in the United States. There's a lot of legislation that's suggesting censorship and paths for removing books from libraries and from circulation and even access to books. So libraries do need support, and there's different ways to support libraries. Just go to your library, use your library, put that library app on your phone and access the wonderful digital technology that libraries offer nowadays. Libraries are incredibly advanced in the way that they're making sure they're meeting the needs of our communities. So I listen to almost 1.5 books a week on my phone while I exercise and walk the dog. And so it's a great way to get extra literature in. You can access magazines through your tablet or your computer or your phone. It's just there's free films. And there's even a collection of local music called the Local Music Project available through the Iowa City Public Library. So if you're kind of interested in, well, what's the music that's being made locally? You can't really type into Spotify, who are the local bands?
Right.
It's not going to tell you that. The Local Music Project can tell you that, and it can even give you a little bit of music history.
Well, speaking of local music, that's the perfect segue into any Dandelion Stompers gigs coming up.
Oh, yeah. So if you take a look at the Walker Homestead schedule, we're playing an afternoon on Derby Day. that day. You don't have to wear a hat, and I don't think there's any derby exercises. But that's just the way to know what day it is.
But you can bring a mint julep.
Yes, yeah, you probably get a mint julep there. They have wonderful food out there, and there's going to be some jazz music from Dandelion Stompers, and they have some of the best sunsets around out in that little part of Johnson County. So I highly recommend coming on out for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if people want to know more about the Looking Forward event, I'm sure that they can find tickets and information on your website.
Yep, you can either go to the Englert website and just look for the May 4th event, or go to the Iowa City Public Library and go to our calendar. Again, tickets are pay what you can. We appreciate everyone's support. It's a great opportunity to dig deeper into literature and the conversation that literature inspires.
And what is the library website?
It's icpl.org.
All right. Katie Roche from the Iowa City Public Library. Always great to see you. Thanks so much for coming and being here.
Thanks for having me.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:30, or download the podcast, watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture, or using your favorite podcast player. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.